From the city of brotherly love, this is Shark Bite Biz with David Strausser.
You just arrived to the news episode of Shark Bite Biz. I'm your glamorous host, David Strausser. This is your place to grow a business during complete global chaos. Today, we're going to talk about tax credits. First, though, tonight, tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Mountain, 3 p.m. Pacific Time. We are going to have our first Shark Bite Biz live stream with special co-host and previous guest Odetta Pine, as well as a live interview with Chief Revenue Officer, Senage Corp, Scott Jennings, and it's going to be right here on our Shark Bite Biz channel here on YouTube. So please don't forget to tune in for that special show. You can go to the episode right now, click the notification bell. It will remind you once we start airing live tonight. And if you love the live stream, if you love Shark Bite Biz, please don't forget to support us by going to deadhousecoffee.com. Use the code SHARK. You'll get 20% off of your order. We'll get all the proceeds to keep doing all this awesome stuff like this podcast, this vodcast, live streams. It helps us produce the biggest and best show we can. Plus, you're going to get the freshest coffee available. Coffee that is roasted, sealed, and shipped within a 24-hour period right to your doorstep. So now let's get back to today's show. An amazing personal story we got today about getting over a major mental block. And what is that mental block? Well, it's getting past the stroke. That is hard. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about taxes, credits, all that fun stuff. It's a jam-packed episode the same day as our Shark Bite Biz live stream. So who do we have today? None other than Randy Crabtree. Randy Crabtree, co-founder and partner of Tri-Merit Specialty Tax Professionals, is a widely followed author, lecturer, and podcast host for the accounting profession. Randy is also president of the 501c3 Stroke Survivors Empowering Each Other, SSEEO, and part owner in an award-winning craft beer and bottle shop in Chicago, Illinois. Since 2019, he has hosted the bi-weekly The Unique CPA podcast, which ranks among the world's 10% most popular programs. So, hey, without further delay, let's bring Randy right on in here.
Business strategy.
Randy, welcome to Shark Bite Biz. You, my friend, you just became Shark Bait.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. This is actually our second time trying to record this interview. We had Zoom trouble with a couple interviews that you may have noticed, like, for example, when we did our season 4 finale with Angela McArdle, too. But all has been resolved with Zoom, and it looks like it's running without a hitch. Hope I just didn't jinx us. But we have a tradition on the show. Everybody's got to kind of lay it all out on the line. You know, tell us what's your experience, what's your background, what do you do for a living, how'd you get there? Basically, in a nutshell, tell us what makes Randy.
So we're going to do that in a nutshell, huh?
In a nutshell.
All right. Well,
but I know it's more like a can of worms, right?
There you go. It kind of goes all over the place. I've been around. I've gone through a few different careers, it seems like. But what I am is a CPA. I guess that's a starting point. Been a CPA for the last 34 years. But I'm not your traditional CPA. You know, I used to be, doing taxes and accounting. What we did is we started a firm 15 years ago called Tri-Merit, where we do specialty tax work. So that's who I am in a nutshell today, but that by far defines really who I am. That's just what I do. Who I am is a lot different.
Great. Well, do you want to tell us who you are?
I'm a husband. I'm a dad. I'm a craft beer enthusiast. I'm a stroke survivor. I'm a few different things. And so, yeah, I'm always cognizant of the fact that, your role in your business doesn't define who you are. I think it helps mold it, but it doesn't define who you are.
That was going to be my next question. Not necessarily does it define who you are, but do you find that doing that actually, like your personal life, your experience, like you said that you were a stroke survivor, does that mold, does that shape how you look at things at business? I mean, looking at that type of life experience, I mean, does it make you more compassionate in the workplace, or understanding of others that they're going through something similar or of the sorts or something, that could be catastrophic like that? How has that shaped your professional career?
So I look back, my stroke was, and I like we're going into the stroke topic because this is a very passionate subject for me. It was 8 years ago that I had the stroke, and that has turned me into the person I am today. And it's a positive thing. Now, that seems weird to say that, I had a stroke and outcomes are positive, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that don't feel the same way. And I'm very fortunate. At all ends of the stroke, fully recovered, other than missing a little part of my brain. And it's just a little part of my brain where a lot of people are missing a lot bigger parts. I've fully recovered. So from me saying that it's a positive experience to me, I know that may sound not like it's like there's other people who have not had the same experience I have. But to your question, has it defined who I am today? Has it created who I am business wise today? It most definitely has. It's been an unbelievable experience that I went through. The first 4 or 5 years, I would not wish on anybody after the stroke, but I wouldn't change it for a second, because it got to me where I am today. And where I am today, we can go into that at some point. But the bottom line is I spend all my time now out educating. I found out that was my passion in this industry, is educating and teaching people. I'm constantly doing webinars and speaking at conferences and being interviewed on a podcast, or I host a podcast or writing articles. So I can, if we want to go into that, how that happened, but that's what ultimately happened because of the stroke. It made me look at things different and created what I do today.
So one final question on the subject, just out of pure curiosity, I guess you could say on my side, is you said for the first 4 or 5 years it was difficult, but then after that, I'm sure it wasn't a cakewalk, but it wasn't. I'm sure that there was some kind of change there. What happened after the 4 or 5 years that made you look or feel differently, after the stroke?
Yeah. And for me, for everybody's journey post-stroke, it's different. From my standpoint, like I said, it was, from a physical standpoint, not anywhere near what most people go through. I fully recovered use of limbs and speech fairly quickly. For me, it was more a mental struggle. It was a PTSD, it was a depression, it was a panic attacks. It was all these things that I went through it.
Like, oh my God, will this happen again? Stuff like that.
Exactly. And that's what would happen. We all have a little twinge happen in our head all the time. Most people don't even feel it. As soon as I felt that, am I going to survive this time? Is this another stroke? Am I going to make it? And this just starts building inside of you. All right, it's coming on. I'm in a lake swimming and I'm freaked out that, okay, if I have a stroke now, I'm going to drown. I mean, these thoughts just start going through your head. And so that was the struggle. The mental struggle is what I had. And I went through counselors. I talked to therapists. Probably didn't stick with it as much as I should have. And finally one day I found one that I don't know what she did, but just after a few sessions, I was at a standpoint where I had this area in my house I would go sit in. I said I had this melancholy feeling. Looking back, it was really depression. I didn't want to call it depression. It's what it was. But somehow she did something that after a handful of sessions, I'm sitting there with my brain in charge of me rather than me in charge of my brain. My brain was in charge. And I finally just said, I won't use the exact words I said to myself, but F you, you're not real. Get out of my head. I'm not listening to you anymore. And that just ended up being my mantra. And honestly, within a month of things coming to my head that I didn't want there, I would say this and it went away. And then it just changed my whole outlook on everything.
That's great. And I think that that's an important story to tell because so many people out there struggle, whether it's mental, physical things that have happened to them. I mean, me personally, I did not have a stroke, but I had a major back injury and the first surgery failed and we had to do 2 surgeries. And it took me, I mean, first off, I was on steroids for 4 months. But then after getting off steroids, just getting my head back straight again. And, even now, I mean, in almost 7 months post the second surgery. And, even now, it's still like I have fear of moving or doing certain things because I'm afraid, like, what if I hurt myself? And it's a mental handicap. Has not affected me in the role of what I do for my day-to-day job, but it has affected me in the family life or just natural living and stuff like that. And it is sometimes a mental struggle. And that's why I like to kind of explore these topics because in business, a lot of time people, their struggles are mental. It is like, hey, I just got to accept it is what it is and work through it and don't let X affect Y. And once you can cross that point, like you did by telling that inner head, that inner fear to essentially F off, you were able to break free of that and grow your career once again.
Yep, it was great. And then from that, what I had decided is afterwards is, reevaluated what I was doing in the business, reevaluated my role in the business. At the time, I was managing partner and actually honestly thought that was my identity, but realized that it probably shouldn't be what I'm doing. It's not, did not have the most passion in that position. And so just reevaluated. We changed roles in the company. My partner and a partner who started the firm with me, and there was just 2 of us at that time, 2 partners. We had a pretty large firm, but 2 partners. Now there's 5. He took over managing partner role. And I just went out and more supported like business development and then realized that was where I was really good at. That was where I really had a passion, and the support was more just out educating. And my partner, in reality, he was really good and is really good at the managing of the firm. He has that mind with processes and procedures and just the visions of growth. And I just have the more of I just want to be out and help people. And so,
but pre-stroke, you weren't able to identify that.
No,
you just had stuck in your head that my professional identity is managing partner.
Exactly.
And it took that life-changing, altering event to help you realize what is your passion. And that's really amazing. So let's switch gears real quick and let's talk a little bit about leadership because it's something that you are very experienced with. And one of the things that drew my attention with some of the bio that you sent me was you had about building a culture around what happens outside the office. First, can you define what is outside the office? And then also tell us, how do you do it?
That's a good one. This is so much fun for me. And I'm in a role now where I just get to see people, grow in their careers and watching that. That's great. But their careers is one thing. And what makes their career is what in my mind, what they do outside of work, what their passions are outside of work. And they can bring those to work too. So I've always, without having a definition for it, I've always been interested in finding out about the person, not the position. And even on my podcast, we've been doing 3 years. At the end of the podcast, I always ask, what are your passions outside of work? What do you do? What makes you you? And so that's just been always something I've done. But now what we've done internally is we've started to let's say we have a business development call or we have a project management team call. And when we're on those calls, every single time at the end of the call, when we do this weekly, one of the employees gets on and it's like a show and tell for 10 minutes at the end. And they talk about their family. They'll put up pictures of things that they like doing. They'll put up objects that they can show. They'll talk about one guy who was an artist, an unbelievable artist, and I didn't even know this. And he was showing us all of his artwork, and it was just amazing. Like everybody on the call, I want to buy that piece. I want to buy that piece. And so you didn't know this about this person. Another person used to be a professional motocross racer. Didn't know that. And so just when you start to dig deeper into what they do, what their passions are outside of work, I think you get a really better appreciation of what they do in work, because you can kind of meld those together in certain situations as well. And it's been a lot of fun.
That sounds really great, because you do have a professional services business, and with that, I mean, we're a professional services business here at Vision 33 as well too. And with that, having your team, your consultant, in our case, or your case, your CPAs or whatever they may be, having them gel to be able to work together remotely on projects is pretty critical, I think. And that's where finding a way to kind of build culture, around your team, and, set that straight. In fact, we've had somebody on the show. The name is escaping me right now, but it was all about the culture in your business. And it was kind of like, do you have a culture policy? I mean, something that's actually like written down and stuff like that. So I've got to ask you, culture is big in your business and learning about the coworkers, colleagues. I mean, do you have a written one yet, or no?
Actually, we don't have a written policy. What we are doing, though, is we are a remote business. We always have been from the start. We have small offices around the country, but for the most of us, we're 50 plus people now. We're one or two people here or there. And so you have to build this culture. So do we have it written? No. What we did on our twice a year, we fly everybody from the company into a location, and we all get together, and it'll be a working day and a half but we're not talking about, we're talking about internal stuff, the business. We're talking about what we need to do to be better as a company for the employees. And so we set up about 5 different committees on this last meeting, which we had just over a month ago. And one of them was just like the town hall meeting committee, where now we're going to get together and we're going to just do stuff that's fun once a month. We set up a mental health committee, which, we already talked about mental health. That's a big issue. And so how do we support our employees that may be struggling with something that we don't even know? How do we start to destigmatize, mental health issues, because people sometimes are afraid to talk about? So we're setting that a committee. So we don't have, I don't think, the definition, but I think in general, we have the roots started of making this culture more defined.
So that's very important, having that defined type of culture, mental health, especially with the remote work. I mean, people like that, we just talked about this in our season 4 finale with Angela McCardle, to where people like to talk about remote work. When you look at the mainstream media, for the most part, like it's all rainbows and unicorns. And it is for a lot of people, because some of them may not actually be working. My team has always been remote, so it's good. And we have good ways to validate that work is actually being done, stuff like that. But it's, a big part of that is having trust in your team that, you have working professionals. Are they actually completing their work? But I think, a good thing to talk about too is both of us, we kind of have niche professional service businesses, niche for us that we do accounting software and, inventory or manufacturing software, ERP type solutions, but we only target specific industries. And you do yours as far as a niche practice as well, where, you're helping with different credits and stuff like that. So I want to get your take on, especially since you were managing partner for so many years, at the business. I mean, what does it take to build a niche practice and to be successful in a niche where again, you're talking niche, so you're going to have a smaller amount of customers usually. I mean, you're not doing something broad, it's not like, oh, we can sell to every business in the US. No, you're doing niche. So you have a much smaller funnel. How do you grow that practice?
Yeah, it's interesting because I was a general CPA, generalist. I thought that was, again, I thought that was my identity back then. I got to get this out of my mind that I always had these identities that aren't really me. But it was, I dealt with small businesses in different industries. I knew the tax code, but I wasn't an expert in every single part of it. You just can't be. If 16 years ago, I merged that practice in with another firm and decided it was time for me to do something else. One, I just was burnt out. I was just working too many hours and it was time. But this niche opportunity just kind of came to me. And at the time, the only product or the only service we were offering was research and development tax credits. We have 5 other products we offer now or services we offer now, but there's research and development tax credits. And this was a thing, and I always have those light bulb moments. I start researching this and I'm looking at it and it's like, this is so interesting. And the niche part comes from that because all of a sudden, tax code, great. I understand it. I like doing taxes. Niche, holy cow. I can dig deep into this. I can become the expert at this small part of the tax code. And then I'm going back to education, then I can share that knowledge. And that's really, I have done that all along during our business. I've always been out educating, but it wasn't my sole responsibility. So by becoming, this is what I think niche is so important. And I talk to CPAs about this all the time. Even if you're not, a niche, whatever in this or that, you're a generalist. Try to become the expert in one area. Try to start working with restaurants. Try to start working with, trucking companies. If you have a passion about that, try to do that. But for us, building niche practice was all about becoming the expert. I mean, our clients are, for the most part, the CPA firms. They send us to their clients to do a small part of the tax return. Then we bring it back to the CPA. They do the tax return. So you have to build trust with the CPA. They're sending you to their client. I could, if I'm not doing this right, I can mess up that entire relationship for them. So you have to build trust.
That's exactly what you and I had talked about too, that, we were talking offline about potential referrals because there's a lot of areas that we kind of cross over and there's opportunities to help each other. And I'm like, also, just so you know, when we get those referrals, we do a white glove service because we don't want to mess up that relationship between you and your customer. If you send us a referral because they're going to be like, you referred them to us, don't you said these guys were good. They were experts and blah, blah, blah. We don't want any part of that. So it's where we are very, very, can't control everything. But for the most part, it is very white glove service and we're very transparent in it as well too. If things start going, sideways as far as keeping the partner in the loop, like, hey, this is what's going on. Can you help us get this back on track? You know what I mean? Communication is key.
Communication. And actually, I'll jump forward a second because you just said it. Communication is a key. So for years, we've been all about making sure when we're working on a CPA's client that we are constantly keeping them in the loop. On emails, we're not calling nonstop because they're very busy. They don't want us to call nonstop. We'll keep them in the loop with emails so they know where we are. We just rolled out a product that we've been working on for years. It just came out this year, it's basically our CPA portal. Every CPA that we work with, and we work with hundreds of CPA firms around the country, now has access to a portal where that's going to give them real-time updates on where we are on all the projects that we're working with their client, if we're missing information, it'll be on there. If we're having a hard time getting a response, it'll be on there. So we are getting great responses on that. So that's part of that trust issue, just showing them, keep transparency, making sure they understand where we are along the way.
Let's dig into another topic that we were just talking about, but we'll dig in a little bit deeper. And, mentioned the referral business, the white glove stuff. So you are kind of, or I should say I guess your business would be an expert at developing referral business around the US tax code. How hard was that to kind of get up and going, just to get people to trust you? I mean, the first one's always the hardest one to get, and then after you get that, then you can use them as a reference, and the second one's usually a little bit easier, and so forth. Why don't you explain us the process of what your company went through to build the relationships that you have now?
So it was a long process, and I knew it would be a long process because we needed to build that trust with the CPA. We could have gone one of two ways when we started this. We could have said, we're going to go direct to taxpayers and we're going to sell our services on the tax end to them. Well, in my mind, I, as a CPA, would not want somebody going directly to my client to sell tax services. So I did not feel doing that we were going to build the strong reputation, because we would get these CPAs going, oh, that company is talking to my client again.
They're getting fearful. Like, are they going to take them away from us? When it's like, no. We're actually here to supplement. And then they're still like, really? Are you just here to help us?
So what we decided, we made the decision, we're not going direct to taxpayers. We are going to CPAs. We're going to build that relationship. Now, that's a longer sell. I guess that's the word. I don't like saying sell, but that's a longer sell, because you're not going to build that trust with them overnight. We were very fortunate. The first day I started the firm, I actually had a local CPA firm that I knew was working with a lot of manufacturers. And manufacturers are, for the R&D tax credit, the number one user of that. And so I went to that firm and I said, hey, I'd be interested in supporting your clients, you and your clients, with this. They were very open. And so we were able to build this relationship with this one CPA firm fairly quickly. And we did a lot of business with them the first year. But that's because I knew them already a little bit. After a year or two, we realized we need to expand our reach to CPAs. And so what we did is we joined or became preferred providers for CPA associations. So there's a bunch of associations around the country. And again, that was not an immediate process, which I'm very happy about, because if every association just let everybody come in to be a preferred provider, well, they're not preferred provider. It's whoever's going to spend the most. So most of these associations did a vetting process. You needed to be working with one of their firms first. There had to be positive reviews, and we had a very good reputation. So we did that. But again, in my mind, it was a 3-year process to really build that relationship. And now we've been around 15 years, and we're part of 10 to 12 associations, and we deal with, we at least have a relationship with just about every top 400 CPA firm in the country. It doesn't mean we work for them all. We know them all because of these groups. And so that was the process. The process was a long build trust, do good work, build trust, and then the relationships and the referrals start coming.
I have something I want to add in there too, because the question always comes up as far as, like, for example, we were just at the New Jersey CPA Expo in mid-June. And are we looking for clients ourselves, like actual leads with the CPA firms? Yeah, we could be. But I kind of feel like that's, looking for a needle in a haystack. Whereas if you're working with the CPA firms as a referral source, that's where you become a magnet and you're bringing all those needles to you. You don't have to go hunting for that needle in the haystack. And that's the analogy that I always use and try to stress, and why I view that, a direct lead, finding referral lead, seeing that somebody just got funding and hitting them up like, hey, you just got $50 million in funding. You want to upgrade your tech system. That's good. And you'll get a hit on that every now and then. But it doesn't, it doesn't provide the amount of stability that I think true referral relationships provide.
It's the one to many. We go to one, they bring us to many. And, just as an example, we have a firm that we've been building a relationship with very strong over the last couple of years. We just projected, I heard this week, that's going to turn into about 100 new clients for us.
That's significant. Let's turn topics once again, as we're chugging along here. We've talked about so much. It's been an awesome chat so far. Hiring people with disabilities. Okay. Now, everybody knows they fill out an employment application. Are you a veteran? Are you disabled? Blah, blah, blah. It's always there. Okay. Why does that benefit your business? And what type of benefit does it actually provide for people that may not understand?
Because I'm a stroke survivor, stroke is a major cause of disability. It's one of the most major causes. So it's a passion of mine. Today is the last day that I am president of an organization called Stroke Survivors Empowering Each Other. My 3-year run ends today.
Term limits. So there you go.
There was this woman I got to meet through Stroke Survivors Empowering Each Other. Am I going to completely mess up her name? Deb Reynolds. I'm pretty sure it's Reynolds. If I mess that up, I apologize, Deb. She's great. And I got to meet her, got to talk to her, and she is all about supporting individuals with disability and getting jobs. And she worked at Walgreens for years, was head of a committee that they came up with to research or study what the effects are of hiring individuals with disabilities. And they were amazed at the data that they got. 7 years of data, so great, strong data. Everything in the company improved once they started putting this program in. Profitability improved. Sick days were reduced. Employee engagement got better. Your reputation in the industry just got better. And so you look at all these things. And so I was able to just piggyback off her knowledge. But there's all this data that just shows there is not any negative effect at all to hiring someone with disability. In fact, it improves just about every aspect of your company. And when I heard her talking about that, I just had to dig deeper. She helped me write an article that we put in Accounting Today about it, because in addition to the benefits for the business, there are tax benefits as well. I mean, to me, that should be ancillary, but it's still out there. And so I had to, as a CPA, intertwine the tax benefits in with just the overall benefits to the business. But it is, and I can't spout out all the stats and data, but I would look up this Walgreens study, because you could find a lot of great data on that.
And that's pretty awesome. I got one more topic I want to ask you about before we get your info on how to contact your business and your podcast and all that good stuff. And that is, again, something that just kind of caught my eye was the employee retention credit. You know, we are in the great resignation, as they call it, although the CEO of recruiter.com, Evan Sohn, was on the show. He's a CNBC jobs report contributor. And he did tell us that, he expects that to end by September with all the data that they have. And if you look at it, we may actually be going into a recession, it seems, at this point in the future. Who knows? I think it's a little bit too early to say definitively or not, but we shall see what the future brings us. So what is the benefit of the employee retention credit, and how does that work?
So do you have an hour right now? Because it'll take me a while to...
Give me the 5-minute overview.
So the employee retention credit, this is something that I just, again, passion's a big thing I talk about all the time. And being passionate about tax, some people might look at me like I'm crazy. But this came out, employee retention credit came out because of the pandemic. It was in response to the pandemic. And so what the Congress did is put out this incentive to, hey, rather than everybody gets laid off and everybody goes on unemployment, let's put an incentive out there that if you retain employees, and that there's no requirement to who you retain. If you have any employees and you qualify, you get this credit. And so what they did is they said, hey, if you can keep people on staff, even if it's half your people, the people you do keep on staff, if you were affected by the pandemic, and there's a couple different ways to be affected, a drop in revenue or a government mandate. I won't go deep into that. But if you had this effect, we're going to give you a credit for every employee you retain. In the year 2020, it could be up to $5,000 per employee. In the year 21, it could be up to $21,000 per employee. And so, we have right there, if you qualified for all the periods, there's $26,000 available for one employee. If you have 10 employees, that's $260,000 tax credit. But what it is, when you say credit, it sounds like you have to use it to offset taxes. It's a refund check. It's just the IRS sends you $260,000 refund check. So it's a great, great benefit for companies that qualify. And I want to put a disclaimer out there. There's a lot of companies, I think, unfortunately, that are putting misinformation out there. And I think there's too many companies taking advantage of this credit that don't qualify. So you have to make sure you meet the requirements.
So 2 questions with that. First off is, it sounds great if you were one of those companies that probably filed an extension. You're still going to have time to look into those credits to get it added in. So definitely you should reach out to Randy's company for that to get some help. Second question is 2022. Is there anything for 2022?
Okay, I'll answer that first. Employee retention credit for 2022, no. And it will not come back. Now, there is a credit out there called the Work Opportunity Tax Credit that is available for businesses that hire individuals. And you kind of mentioned it before, certain individuals in a veterans category or certain individuals that meet certain demographic definitions, they have that credit. But let me go back real quick to the 2020 and the 2021 employee retention credit. That is actually that we are not up against any deadlines right now. For all of the 2020 credit, you actually have until April 15th of 2024 to file those amended returns. And for all the 21 credit, you have till April 15th of 2025. So there's still quite a bit of time if you qualify to be able to take advantage of this.
That's really important information. Again, if you qualify. Now let's get into some quick speculation real quick. If we go into a recession, because I know a lot of business people are fearing that possibility. I mean, we're hearing it in our sales cycles, like, hey, you know what? We just want to see what happens with the economy right now before we spend $250,000 on a new ERP platform. And, if we go into recession, do you think it's possible that instead of companies doing mass layoffs, which we are already seeing with some tech companies, given how the stock market has been performing as of late, do you think it's possible that this comes back in some type of shape or form in the future if a recession hits, given that they did it for COVID and we're not that far away? It's not like they did it 20 years ago and now, or during the Great Recession, 10, 15 years ago, they did an extended unemployment benefits for that type of stuff. But I don't think there's any type of retention stuff for the employers. They did that during COVID. Do you think there's a possibility if we do hit a recession that it might come back in some shape or form?
I think if we do go to a recession, they'll obviously be looking at any kind of tax incentives they can put out there to help minimize the effect of a recession. They've learned a lot, I think, during the last couple of years on what works, because we've had a lot of incentives. Everybody knows we have incentives. I mean, they've been all over the place. I think they've learned that there's some things that do work and there's some things that don't work. A version of employee retention credit, I honestly think that would be tough to do, but an incentive that maybe somehow have a slight connection to it, I can see something like that happening. It's just the problem with the employee retention credit. It is an unbelievable credit, but this is my opinion. There's not enough oversight on how you qualify or how you file for it. So any company right now could could file for it. There's no pre-qualification. There's nothing I have to send in with it. There's nothing I have to do other than IRS maybe do a desk review when you send it in if it's a big credit. Eventually, the only way they're going to find out if they're legit or not is in audits. And so I think if they do anything in the future, let's say there is a recession, I think there's going to be more of a pre-qualification aspect to it so that they can make sure that there's not any kind of fraud or anything else happening with it.
And that's a good point, because I tell you what, right now, as I open up my phone and I just go through the news, I mostly focus on local news, but it's got some national, international stuff mixed in when it's big. But every day I see another case, someone, arrested for the credit fraud and stuff like that. Hey, Randy, this has been awesome. I mean, we've covered so many topics. I can't believe that we jammed it in probably about 35 minutes or so. But please do me a favor. Tell everybody where they can digitally stalk you online, where they can find your company, where they can find your podcast, everything about you.
So the best starting point is our website, which is tri-merit.com. There's all kinds of information about the company. There's information. You can link to my contact information. I'm on LinkedIn all the time. We have a YouTube channel. We have a TikTok channel. We have a Facebook page. We have all that. In addition, I have the podcast called the Unique CPA, where we just talk about fun. And again, people might think I'm geeky, but fun things happening in public accounting. So yeah, I have a great time with that.
That's definitely a niche podcast, right?
Yes, it is. We got the niche industry. We got the niche podcast. I agree.
There you go. Hey, Randy, thank you for coming on. This has been a blast. And I really appreciate you talking about the stroke, your personal struggles, how you overcame that, because I think there's somebody listening to this podcast right now, watching on YouTube, Rumble, anywhere that they can find it, Spotify, iTunes, whatever, that this is probably going to help. So thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Can I build on that for 1 second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I know we're getting ready to finish here, but
yep, go ahead.
I recently did a podcast on stroke, and I had another person that works in the accounting industry who had a stroke as well. And he and I did a podcast about it. I had a CPA reach out to me after that saying, "Hey, I'm 8 months post-stroke. I would love to sit down and talk with you and just, kind of understand what you went through." And so he and I are having lunch next week. And so just like you said, if there's
That's
one
awesome.
person listening and one person that gets something positive out of it, I'll take it.
That's a win. Hey, Randy, thank you so much for coming on and surviving being shark bait. This has been a blast, and we haven't had any Zoom problems. So no jinx.
All right, great.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Oh, wow. That was really heart-touching, wasn't it? Well, first, you all know the routine. If you found this interview helpful, if it sparked those warm and fuzzies, do me a favor, hit that like button, smash that subscribe button. But if you really want to help us out, because Shark Bite Biz is the greatest kept secret in the world of small business, please share us out to your friends, your colleagues, your family, anywhere you dwell on the interwebs, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Minds, Rumble, anywhere you can. We appreciate it. Help us get the word out. Now, let's get back to our rock star guest, Randy. We covered so many different topics in this episode. I'm only going to touch on one of them. The mind is powerful. It can be your greatest friend or your greatest inhibitor. For Randy, his personal story it really touched me. As you all know, I've had some health issues this past year. That's part of the reason why I scaled the show back from 2 episodes down to 1 episode a week. I had a failed surgery. I was on steroids, pain meds. I was completely out of it. My confidence in myself, my confidence in my abilities, I'll be honest, it was shattered. And only now am I getting back into my groove again. Because, like I said, for about 9 months, I lost faith in myself. That is what Randy went through. He was living in fear, not because he had to, because his mind was an inhibitor, not allowing him to return to full form. It took him a while. I think he said about 5 years during the interview that we had to really figure it out and regain his passion. And now he is out doing what he loves to do and totally kicking butt again. He has one of the top 10% of all podcasts out there with his Unique CPA show. So awesome stuff, Randy. I can't thank you so much for coming on and just giving a real personal deep dive into your life, into your struggle. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your moving story. If you need some help, you're a stroke survivor, you had something similar like that, please reach out to Randy. He will talk with you and maybe give you that one piece of information that you're missing to totally change your life and get back to form again. But If you don't need help, still check out his podcast, The Unique CPA, and also his business, Try Merit, especially if you can use some awesome tax-saving advice. So the question of the day, have you heard about our live stream? Well, it's tonight, July 25th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube. Make sure you watch us. Again, it's going to be right here on the Shark Bite Biz channel. We already have it up. There's an image there for the live stream. You can click the notification bell and get a little ding when we're going live. So leave a comment here on YouTube on this video. Let us know if you're going to be joining us tonight. Do you want to be on the show? If so, send out an email to interviews@sharkbitebiz.com. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, you can join the channel for only $3 a month. Yes, $3 a month. You can become a baby shark, support the show. If not, jump on over to deadhousecoffee.com where you can get the freshest coffee available. I'm talking about coffee that is literally roasted, sealed, and shipped within a 24-hour period based on their roasting schedules to your doorstep. Best part, use the code SHARK. You'll save 20% off your order, and all the orders, they help us do what we do right here at the show. Hey, I'm David Strausser. This is Shark Bite Biz. We're going to see you tonight at our live stream. If not, you'll be able to catch the replay and you'll see us with our episode next week. See you tonight. Cheers.
Thank you for listening to Shark Bite Biz. We hope you got some insightful info from this podcast. Be sure to subscribe to us through your favorite podcast app and visit us on the web at www.sharkbitebiz.com. How has business changed for you in the 20s? Email us at podcast@sharkbitebiz.com so you can join us and share your story.